lamb stock is probably not worth keeping unless you cook a lot of lamb, because lamb stock isn't really good with anything but lamb. I mean, chicken stock you can use with lots of things. You can use pork, obviously chicken, any poultry. In Eastern dishes you can even use chicken stock with prawns and fish. But lamb stock really tends to make whatever you're cooking taste heavily of lamb, so unless you're cooking a lot of lamb dishes, you can just chuck that out when you finish. It's only water with a bone in, after all, a few spices. Cost pennies. Right. That's simmering happily. I'm going to put the lid on that for a few minutes. Now then, I've got some lentils in here, which are sort of yellow. They call them yellow split peas. They're channa lentils, which I've been soaking in water for about half an hour. I'm going to drain them off and put some of them in there, and they'll cook nicely and give the sauce some texture. Okay. Alright, here we go. I'm not going to put all of them in. I think I did a bit too many. That's probably enough of this curry, I think. I'll save the rest. Okay. Now, I'm going to leave that cooking, simmering healthily. Just top it up a bit with stock. If the lentils absorb too much of the stock, I can always add a bit more because I've got plenty of this. Now, before we forget, the all-important, if I can find it, salt. Got some nice Malden crystal sea salt here. If you use this stuff, you've got to remember it's in crystal, so it looks less than it is, so that amount is actually quite a lot of salt. Probably enough for the dish. Already. But it can fool you, this stuff, and you can end up with very salty food. Right, we'll leave that to simmer for a bit and come back later. Okay, we're back. The lamb has now cooked down nicely. I took the lid off after about half an hour, started to reduce it down, and the lamb's starting to get nice and tender now. The lentils are cooked. Now, I'm going to make a pullao. Rice, these lovely French beans that I've chopped up, we bought from a farmer's market, and saffron soaked in hot water. You just want a few saffron strands soaked in hot water. Okay, now before I start doing this, it's important to keep your hands steady, like I said before, so steady your hands. Cheers. Right, we've got half an onion, not much, just half an onion chopped up, some oil in there. And what I've done is I've soaked half a cup of basmati rice. This is about enough for 2 people. So you soften the onion in there quite quickly, and then you add your rice into there, fry it up with the onion. It all out the cup. I soaked the rice for about half an hour in water and then drained all the water off using a sieve. Just give the rice a quick stir in with the onion. Now the important thing about this, if you fry the rice, you crack the outer edge of the rice, which means that later whatever spices or stock you put in the pan is able to seep through into the body of the grain, which inevitably makes the pullao more tasty. It's the same technique the Spanish use for paella and the Italians use for risotto. Okay, so now I'm going to add the saffron water. That's just a few strands of saffron with some hot water and it soaks for about 10 minutes. Becomes nice and yellow. Now, hot water. After the rice is soaked, I normally add about double the amount of water to the amount of rice. So it was about just over half a cup, so just a cup and a half. There you go. If it's too much water, just a bit too much water that you've added, just cook the rice a bit longer with the lid off. If it's too little, you can always add more later. Salt, very important when you're cooking rice, don't forget that. Now, add the beans. Very nice. Okay, so we'll bring that to a simmer. Turn the heat down. Excuse me. Put the lid on. Meanwhile, while that's cooking, I've got these little tomatoes, which I'm going to add to the lamb just before we serve it, really. 5 minutes, 10 minutes before we serve it. Add a bit of sweetness. The lamb smells and tastes amazing, by the way. What I did, it's a shoulder of lamb, so it means there's quite a lot of fat on the meat, rather than leg of lamb, which has almost no fat. The shoulder's tasty because the fat base the meat as it's cooking. So I've actually just spooned off bits of the fat while it's been cooking there, and I've got that much fat off. I mean, you can eat that if you want, you can leave it, but I prefer to spoon it off. Now it's pretty much the right amount of fat, I think, for the curry, you know. And it's thickening up nicely. Okay, so there you go, that's the pullao going there. We'll turn that down to a simmer. Lid on. Leave that going for a minute. Put the tomatoes in. Just let them heat up. We're almost ready. Okay, I think the rice is probably done. Let's have a look. Yep, that's done, so I'm going to turn the heat off. You can tell because the basmati grains look sort of plump and filled out when it's done. Cook this a few times, you'll be able to tell just by looking at it. So the heat's off. Now what I'm going to do is add a bit of butter, a few blocks of butter. You don't have to do this, but it's very nice to do. That. And a bit of mint. You can either use mint or parsley. Because of the green beans I like to use mint. Just sprinkle that around. And then you cover it. Leave that to heat through. Leave it to heat through for about 5 minutes. A few minutes. Steam will develop the thing even more. Okay, now the lamb curry's here. All I'm going to do is add a bit of green coriander, and a quick cheeky squeeze of lemon. I don't think I've got any pips in there. And that's that. And that is done. And that's just about right. So there you go. That's lamb curry with channa dal, tomatoes, coriander and lemon. And this is green bean pullao. Just give it a stir. That's kind of buttered saffron pullao with mint, green beans. There goes a bean. Popping back in. Okay, that's all for now.